Hi everyone, this video is
Welcome
for
to a
iReady
special outdoor
lesson,
edition of
ratios
Big
involving
Stars.
complex
Today
fractions.
is the beginning of the Hike for Health race.
Yes, we have 3 teams racing across rugged mountain trails on bike and on foot. Not to mention a special challenge along the way. This is going to be one tough day.
The winner will be the team that wins the most events.
Our 3 teams are already off in the wilderness. We are tracking them here on our GPS device. We have Team Rise Over Run with Olive and Azul, Team Tourbella with Bella and Bo, and Team Infinite Dimensions with Luna and Hannah.
It looks like they are off to a great start.
Yes, looks like they are in a tie at the hilltop checkpoint. This is the very top of the hill, so the hardest part is out of the way. It took them all 2 hours to get to the top.
Yes, sweet tea, they are all in one big pack. We will be keeping track of all of their rates along their journey to determine the winner.
Yeah, and the rates might come in handy for planning future races. Let's see how fast they were going. The bikers traveled 26 miles in 2 hours. What can we do to find out how fast the bikers were traveling in miles per hour?
So we know to find unit rate, we want to divide. So right here, we have 26 miles in 2 hours, so we're going to click divide 26 by 2. But there's another correct
That would
answer.
work perfectly. What's another way you could find their speed?
Dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 2, remember, we flip it. So 2 is really written as 2 over 1. But we don't have to write that because we know every whole number in the whole world is written over 1. But if we were to flip that and find the reciprocal of 2, it would be 1/2. So we can also multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 1/2.
If they can travel 26 miles in 2 hours, then we could divide 26 by 2 to see how far they would get in 1 hour. Or you could think of it another way. They have half as much time, so they can travel half as far. Dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. Looks like they could travel 13 miles in 1 hour. So the bikers are traveling at a rate or a speed of 13 miles per hour. Let's put this into a ratio table.
Okay, so we know that 26 divided by 2 is 13. So we're going to type 13 into our ratio table and click the check
They
mark.
are traveling 13 miles per every 1 hour. And look, the ratio table shows the equivalent ratios. If we divide both the 26 miles and the 2 hours by 2, we end up with the rate, 13 miles per hour. Or if we multiply the 26 miles and 2 hours both by 1/2, we end up with the same rate of 13 miles per hour. Not bad for traveling uphill.
So our goal here is to understand that dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So dividing by 3 would be the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal of 3, which is 1/3.
Well, guys,
And so on and so
while
forth.
you two were chatting, the downhill biking part of this race was completed.
Wow, looks like we have some times coming in for the last 12 miles.
Sweet. Let's drop it on a chart.
Team Rise Over Run finished the last 12 miles in half an hour. What was their average speed in miles per hour?
So we can think to ourselves, what this means is if they go 12 miles in half of the hour, how far will they have gone in the whole hour? So 12 plus 12 would give us 24. And if you need to pull up the calculator, remember it's right down here in the corner.
We can fill that into a ratio table. 12 miles in half an hour is equivalent to 24 miles per 1 hour.
And look at the relationship between these two columns.
Right,
Yes,
now
we multiplied the 1/2
multiply
hour
by
2
2
hour.
to get 1.
Multiply the 12 miles by 2 as well.
Remember,
That way,
when we
can keep
multiply
our ratios
fractions, we're going to do this. So they had 1/2 times 2. Here I did 14 times 1/2. So we have to put the 14 over 1. And then we're going to multiply either straight across, which would have given us 14 over 2, which then we simplify to 7. Or we can cross reduce and simplify before we multiply. And we would divide the 14 by 2 and the 2 by 2. And we do 7 times 1, and 1 times 1, and we'd get the whole number 7 over 1 right away. So that's what we did here, 1/2 times 2 to get a 1 in our denominator.
Looks like Team Tool Bella finished the last 12 miles in 20 minutes. That's 1/3 of an hour. What was their average speed in miles per hour?
Okay, so now this one's a little bit harder. So if we think about this, this is saying 12 miles in 1/3 of an hour. So if we're doing our ratio table, right, we want to get a 1 here in our denominator. So what would we have to multiply by in order to get a 1 in our denominator? The reciprocal. So we would have to multiply this by 3 over 1. Now these two will cancel out, and we have to multiply the numerator by 3 over 1, because what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. 12 times 3 will give us 36 miles. So for this one, we're going 36 miles per hour.
Team Infinite Dimensions took 40 minutes to get down the mountain. That's 2/3 of an hour. Last time, when we had 1/3 of an hour, we multiplied by 3. Now we have 2/3 of an hour. Let's do that again and see what happens.
So now we have 2/3 of an hour. So remember, we're multiplying by the reciprocal to get a 1 in our denominator. So what would be our reciprocal of 2/3? 3 over 2. Then these two would cancel. Now we have to multiply our numerator by 3 over 2. Now, this is multiplying a whole number by a fraction, which we talked about up here. We have to put this over 1. Let me get another color. So when we put this 12 over 1, now we can either multiply straight across or we can cross reduce. I like to cross reduce first. So we see that this problem really turned into this. 12 over 1 times 3 over 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Multiply straight across. 6 times 3 is 18. 1 times 1 is 1. So this will be 18 miles in 1 hour. Now this is actually going to break it down just by having us multiply by 3. When we do 2/3 times 3, I think you can still see down here, right? 2/3 times 3, you have to put the 3 over the 1. Now we can cross reduce. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. So that's going to give us a 2 in our denominator. So we're not quite at our unit rate yet, because unit rate means we have a 1 in our denominator. But let's work with what they're giving us. 12 times 3, 36.
That's right. I wonder how you handled that fraction.
Now we can divide just to find our unit rate. 36 divided by 2, which will also give us 18.
Now we have some nice
So we can either manipulate it,
but we still haven't found our rate.
or we can just multiply by the reciprocal right away.
2 hours. How many miles can they travel in 1 hour?
So we figured that out. 36 divided by 2 is 18.
You can divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2 to turn this 2 hours into 1 hour. Do that to the 36 miles, and you have 18 miles per hour. So we took the original 12 miles and multiplied by 3. Then we multiplied by 1/2.
Isn't that the same as multiplying by 3 halves?
Which is what we did here.
Whoa. Is anyone else noticing what I'm noticing? Check it out. When we had 1/3 of an hour, we multiplied by 3. And when we had 1/2 of an hour, we multiplied by 2.
Then, when we had 2/3 of an hour, we multiplied by 3 halves.
So what is the relationship between the time spent traveling and the number you multiply the distance by to find the speed?
So what's the relationship between 1/3 and 3, or 2/3 and 3/2, or 1/2 and 2? They are reciprocals.
these numbers are reciprocals of each other. Remember that whole numbers have a hidden denominator of 1. That makes sense because the reciprocal of a number is its multiplicative inverse, meaning that the product of a number and its reciprocal is 1.
Remember that word,
I get
inverse.
it. Whenever we are looking for
opposite,
a rate,
flip
we
it.
need to find an equivalent ratio whose first quantity corresponds to 1 unit of the second quantity. So we can use the multiplicative inverse to get the one we need.
So
Looks like you
additive
guys have it all
inverses
figured out.
add to
Let's get back to
0,
the race.
multiplicative inverses multiply to 1.
Tool Bella is in the lead after that speedy downhill trip.
Yep. And now they are on to a different kind of challenge, the wood gathering challenge. Each team must gather enough firewood to last 6 hours. They are not going to be camping today, but in a survival situation, keeping warm is critical.
So let's see what kind of gathering skills each team has brought with them today. Okay, let's see just how much wood each team has to collect. According to our survival guide, an average campfire burns about 2.5 pounds of wood per hour. How many pounds of wood do you need to keep the campfire burning for 6 hours?
Okay, so we just want to make an equivalent ratio here. So we know to get from 1 to 6, we multiply by 6. So what we have to do is 2.5 times 6. Now, the calculator that you have does not let you put fractions in. So you would either have to turn 1/2 into a decimal, which would be 2.5 times 6, or you could use mental math, or you can turn your mixed number into a improper fraction. And remember, the way we do that is we multiply the denominator by the whole number. So we would do 2 times 2, which would be 4. Hold that number in your head, and now we add the numerator on. So 4 plus 1, and we leave the denominator the same. So this would turn into 5 halves, or 5 over 2, times 6. And don't forget, we have to put that 6 over 1. Now we're going to multiply. Before we multiply straight across, I like to cross reduce. So I'm going to cross reduce 2 and 6. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. When I multiply straight across, 5 times 3 will give me 15. 1 times 1 will give me 1. So I know that my answer is 15. So it's going to be 15 pounds of wood in 6 hours.
Hey guys, we've got some more numbers coming in from our competitors. Looks like everyone is reporting in their final gathering amount and time. Some of the teams gathered more firewood than they will need, so it'll come down to who had the fastest wood gathering rate to declare a winner for this.
Which team do you think was collecting wood at the fastest rate?
Okay, so now rate, we know, is unit rate. So we want to divide. So let's start. I have the next piece of paper ready to go. So we have Tool Bella as 15 divided by 1/3. Now, we can either multiply by the reciprocal, which might be a little faster, or we can divide the fraction, but we'd have to do keep, change, flip. Let's multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, if this is our pounds of wood and this is our hours, we want the hours to have a 1 in the denominator. So what do we have to multiply? 1/3, the reciprocal would be 3 over 1. These will cancel. 3 over 1 is the same as just the whole number 3. So we're really doing 15 times 3, which will give us an answer of 45 pounds per hour. Now, the next one, we have rise over run. They have 20.5 pounds per half hour. Wow, look at that complex fraction. Isn't it beautiful? All right, so remember, we want a 1 in our denominator. What's our reciprocal of 1/2? 2 over 1, which is the same as 2. So we have to do 20 and 1/2 pounds times 2. You can do mental math, or we can bring this down here. Turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. 2 times 20 is 40. Hold that in your head, add the 1. So this would be 41 over 2 times 2 over 1. Cross reduce, and what's 41 times 1? 41. So we know that our answer for rise over run is 41 pounds. Okay, the last one that we have to find out and compare, infinite dimensions. We'll do that over here. Okay, they are 30 pounds in 3/5 of an hour. Remember, we want 1 hour in the bottom. Here, we're just going to multiply by our reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 5/3. These will cancel. We're going to do 30 times 5 over 3 to get our answer. Let's come down here. We have to do 30 over 1 times 5 over 3. Cross reduce. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 30 divided by 3 is 10. Multiply straight across. 10 times 5 is 50. 1 times 1 is 1. So we know infinite dimensions is 50 pounds per hour. So which one is the most per hour? Infinite dimensions. Can't say that word
Okay,
today.
let's calculate the race and see if you're right.
So now we did all our work, so we can just plug all of this right into the charts that they give us.
Rise Over Run gathered 20.5 pounds of wood in
So
half
right
an hour.
here,
What was their speed in pounds per hour?
41 pounds per hour. Make sure you type in the correct number, not like me. Okay, good. 41 pounds. We multiplied by 2. That's the same thing we did here.
Team 2, Bella, gathered 15 pounds of wood in 1/3 of an hour.
So
What
up
was their
here,
speed in pounds per hour?
we multiplied by 3, and we found this one was 45 pounds per hour. And now infinite dimensions.
You know, sweetie, I think we are starting to get the hang of this.
We had to multiply by 5/3.
We could probably ditch this ratios table.
Okay.
Really?
See? We've had a hidden fraction right in front of us the whole time.
Complex
15 pounds to 1/3 hour is the same as writing 15 to 1/3 pounds per hour.
Look at
I
that
don't
beautiful
know.
thing.
It looks complicated.
Well, we do have a complex fraction, but don't worry. We will just keep doing the same thing we were doing before, but this time without a table. Can you handle it?
Oh, it's on. Bring it.
Team Infinite Dimensions gathered 30 pounds of wood in 3/5 of an hour. How can you find the rate in pounds per hour?
So we can either multiply 30 by 5/3 or do 30 divided by 3/5. Both of those answers are correct.
That will work. What else could you do? You can find the rate by taking 30 pounds and dividing it by 3/5. Remember that you can write division using a fraction bar or a division sentence. And when you divide by a fraction, that is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, or multiplicative inverse. 5/3 is the multiplicative inverse of 3/5. This is the same thing we were doing in the ratios table, multiplying by the inverse. Okay, so Team Infinite Dimensions gathered 30 pounds of wood in 3/5 of an hour. What is their
answer?
speed in pounds per hour?
50. We got 50. So we're going to type in 50.
30 times 5/3 is 150 thirds, which simplifies to 50 pounds
So
per
they
hour.
multiplied across first and then reduced. I like to cross reduce first. Whichever way
I don't
you
know,
want.
man. Can
is
we
fine.
really take 30 and divide it by a number, then end up with a bigger number? Does a rate of 50 pounds per hour make sense to you?
Yes, because 30 pounds in 3/5 of an hour is the same as 10 pounds in 1/5 of an hour. So there should be 50 pounds in an entire hour. And yes, because 3/5 of an hour is less than 1 full hour. Remember, 1 full hour would be represented by the number 1 whole. So they should be able to collect more than 30 pounds of wood in 1 hour. So I'm going to choose this one, but both yeses are correct.
We can collect 30 pounds in 3/5 of an hour. We could totally be able to collect more in an entire hour. More time means more wood. Also, if we divide 1 hour into fifths, we can split up the 30 pounds among 3 of them. That's 10 pounds of wood each. That means the remaining fifths would get 10 pounds too, for a total of 50 pounds in 1 whole hour. Our answer totally makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
So I guess we are recording these numbers correctly.
Okay, so Infinite Dimensions ended up with a rate of 50 pounds per hour. Tool Bella
we were
came in
right.
second with 45 pounds per hour. Rise Over Run was right behind them with 41 pounds per hour.
Even though Team Rise Over Run gathered more wood than Team Tool Bella gathered their wood faster, so they had a better rate.
Right, PJ. Infinite Dimensions took the longest to gather wood, but they were picking up wood much faster than either of the other teams. This is why we had to calculate the rate. Finding how much each team would gather in 1 hour, let us see who was actually gathering the fastest.
Back to the race. It looks like all of the teams are finishing the hiking trail.
Nice! I have already written down all the information for their hiking speeds. All we need to do is find the rates.
It took Team Infinite Dimensions 2 hours to hike 4 2/3 miles. We need to find their average speed in miles per hour, but first, let's convert 4 2/3 to a fraction greater than 1.
Okay, so what we're doing is 4 2/3 miles per 2 hours. So they want us to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So what we do for that, remember, is multiply 3 times 4, hold that number in your head, 12 plus 2. 12 plus 2 is 14. So this is the same as 14 over 3 miles per 2 hours. So in here, we're going to type in 14 over 3. That's what we did. They did mental math. We did it faster
There
with
are a
our
couple of ways to
multiplication.
figure this out. How would you like to calculate the rate?
Okay, so both are correct. We can do it whichever way you want. So we can either multiply by the reciprocal, which here would be 1/2, or we can do 14 over 3 divided by 2. Let's multiply by the reciprocal just to keep the same theme going, because your calculators that you probably have at home can't do fractions. So we're going to multiply by 1/2. Remember, these will cancel out, and we want 1 hour in our denominator. So now we're going to multiply this fraction up here by 1/2. Let's see if we can cross reduce. 14 and 3, no. 3 and 1, no. 14 and 2, yes. We can divide both of those by 2. 2 divided by 2, 1. 14 divided by 2, 7. Now we multiply across. 7 times 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. So we're going 7 over 3 miles per hour. Now they're going to ask us to turn that 7/3 back into a mixed number. So we're going to have to divide to do that.
Sounds good. Let's try it that way. What is their average speed in miles per hour?
So 7 over 3, we have to think. How many times does 3 go into 7 without going over? Well, 7 divided by 3. 3 goes into 7 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. Do you guys remember long division? We have 1 left over. That's our remainder. So we write this as whole number 2. The remainder is our numerator, and our divisor is our denominator. So this would be 2 1/3 miles per hour. We're going to type that in here. And click the check. And there's all of our work that we did on paper.
It took Team Toolbella 2 1/3 hours to hike 4 2/3 miles. What is their average speed in miles per hour?
Okay, so now what we're doing is Toolbella, right? Toolbella. Okay, so we have 4 2/3 miles divided by 2 1/3 hours. Okay, so we have a super nice complex fraction here. If we turn those both into improper fractions, this will be 4 times 3, 12, plus 2. We already know that that was 14 over 3 miles, same from before. Now we're going to do this one. 3 times 2, 6, plus 1, 7. So this is 7 over 3, which we know from here, hours. Now, we want to multiply. No, I'm not trying to update my email, silly. Times the reciprocal, so times 3 over 7. And we're going to get our answer. Okay, let's see if we can cross-reduce anything. 3 divided by 3, 1. 3 divided by 3, 1. 7 divided by 7, 1. 14 divided by 7, 2. Multiply straight across. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1, 1. So we can leave it like that, and we know that we have a 1 in our denominator. So the Toolbellas are going 2 miles per hour. Paper.
It took Team Rise Over Run 1 2/3 hours to hike 4 2/3 miles. What is their average speed in miles per hour?
Okay, same thing now. We want 4 2/3 miles in 1 2/3 of an hour. So if we turn this into improper fractions, we know 4 2/3 is giving us 14 over 3 miles per 3 times 1, 3, plus 2, 3 plus 2, 5/3 of an hour. Now, we want to multiply by our reciprocal, so that will be 3/5. That will give us a 1 in our denominator. We need to multiply the numerator by 3/5. Okay, let's cross-reduce first. 3 will simplify to 1. 3 will simplify to 1. 14 and 5 cannot reduce, so we're going to have 14/5 miles per hour. Now we're going to have to turn 14/5 back into a mixed number. Think to yourself, 5 goes into 14 2 times, so our whole number will be 2. And we know that 5 times 2 is 10, so we will have 4/5 left over. So 2 4/5. Bam.
Well, out of 4 events in this race, we have 1 tie.
I want a
Yes,
fresh piece of
and
paper.
Toolbella won the downhill bike leg of the race.
Infinite Dimensions won the wood gathering trial with some great wood picking skill.
And Team Rise Over Run won the final hiking event. I guess with 3 great teams, it's no surprise it ends in a 1-1-1 tie.
Yes, these teams sure breezed through the course.
They sure did, sweetie. And to make sure we breeze through next year's race calculations, we need to keep in mind just a few things.
When looking for a rate, we either use a ratio table
Or rewrite the complex fraction as a division sentence.
Either way you go about it, you're going to end up multiplying by the reciprocal of the denominator.
Precisely. Just like anything that may look difficult, take it step by step and think it through, and you'll be at the finish line before you know it.
Okay, let's go do our quiz.
You said it, PJ. Don't forget to tune in next time for the tiebreaker.
Sweet. Let's see how fast these bosses are on water.
Till next time, keep healthy and keep moving.
Okay, time for the quiz.
Jen picked 3/4 of a gallon of strawberries in half an hour. If she keeps picking strawberries at the same rate, how many gallons will she have picked in 2 hours?
Okay, so remember, we see here from our table that we're doing 3/4 times what? How are we going to get from 1/2 to 2? Well, 3/4, 1/2. And we want to get to a 2 in our denominator. In order to find our unit rate, we would multiply by 2, right? Because 1/2 times 2 would give us 1. So let's start with that. Use a different color. So if we multiply this by 2, these would cancel and we'd get 1. And then we'd multiply this by 2 over 1 and we would get 3 over 2 over 1. So that's our unit rate, 3 over 2 over 1. Now, to get from 1 to 2, we multiply by 2. So now we have to multiply this by 2 to get our answer. So when we do that, we can cross reduce again, and we're going to get 3 over 2. We're going to type in 3 here. Safer, right? Okay. Oh dear.
The Big Star Bakery uses 2 1/4 cups of raisins to make 4 servings of trail mix. How many cups of raisins are in each serving?
Okay, next question. So look at this. We have 2 1/4 over 4. We want to get to 1 in our denominator. How do we get to 1 in our denominator? We divide, or we multiply by our reciprocal. What's our reciprocal of 4? Flip it. So it would be 1/4. So we have to do 2 1/4 times 1/4. Now that's not easy to see right away. So what I'm going to do, come down here and rewrite it. 2 1/4 written as an improper fraction will be 9 over 4 times 1 over 4. When we do this, we're going to get they gave us multiple choice answers. I'm not staring at it funny. Okay. We get 9 over 16. So we have 9 over 16 cups per serving. Got nervous for a second. Is the pink too hard to see?
Team Rise Over Run canoed 15 3/4 miles in 2 1/4 hours. What was their average rate of speed in miles per hour?
Okay, let's see if we can get one more down here. All right, so we have 15 3/4 miles over 2 1/4 hours. All right, we're dividing. Let's turn these into improper fractions so that we can do it a little faster. All right, here we go. We're going to multiply. 15 times 4 is 60, plus 3 is going to give us 63 over 4 miles per 2 times 4, we know is 8, plus our 1 was 9/4 of an hour. So now we want to get to a 1 in our denominator. We're going to multiply by our reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of 9/4? Hopefully you told me it was 4/9. These will cancel. We're going to multiply the top by 4 over 9. Let's cross reduce. 4 will become a 1. 4 will become a 1. 9 and 63 we can also simplify. 9 will become a 1. 63 divided by 9 is 7. Now when we multiply across, we're going to get 7 miles per hour. So we're going to type 7 in here and go on.
In infinite dimensions canoed 15 3/4 miles in 3 hours. What was their average rate of speed in miles per hour?
Okay, so what is this for? 15 3/4 miles per 3 hours. So we know that we want to multiply the top and the bottom here by the reciprocal, which will be 1/3. These will cancel. We'll get a 1 in our denominator. We want to multiply this by 1/3. Okay, not so easy to see. So let's come down here and do that. We're going to do 15 times 4, 60 plus the 3, so 63 over 4 times 1/3. Now, 6 and 63 we can reduce. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 63 divided by 3, well, 3 goes into 6 2 times. 3 goes into 3 1 time, so it's going to be 21. 21 times 1 is 21. 4 times 1 is 4. We're going to turn that back into a mixed number. 4 goes into 21 5 times without going over, because 4 times 5 is 20. So we know we'll have 1/4 left over. So this is 5 1/4 miles per hour. So we're going to click 5 1/4 and go to the next question.
Team Toolbella canoed 15 3/4 miles in 5 1/4 hours. What was their average rate of speed in miles per hour?
5 1/4 miles. Okay, so we already know 15 3/4 written as an improper fraction. What did we say? 63 over 4 miles. 5 1/4, let's turn this. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 1, we have 21/4 miles. Now, we want to get a 1 in our denominator. We're going to multiply by our reciprocal. The reciprocal of 21 over 4 is 4 over 21. These will cancel. Multiply by 4 over 21. Okay, up here, let's see if we can cross reduce. Well, what I do know is that 4 and 4 can both reduce to 1. Now, if you think back over here, we saw that 3 times 21 was 63. So we know that 21 divided by 21 will be 1, and 63 divided by 21 will be 3. So when we multiply this across, it will be 3 miles per hour. Over here. Next question.
Simplify the complex fraction.
2/3 divided by 1/3. Okay, so to simplify or get our answer, we do want this to be 1. But what this means to us, this complex fraction, is 2/3 divided by 1/3. Now we know how to do this problem. Keep, change, flip. So what this is going to become is 2/3 times 3 over 1. Remember, it's the same thing as multiplying by our reciprocal. Let's cross reduce. The 2 3's will become 1's, and we'll get 2 over 1, which is the same as 2. So this answer is 2. I think I can put one more on this page before I have to flip it.
Simplify the complex fraction.
And run on the door. Okay, here we go. So this is 2 3/4 divided by 1 1/8. All right, we're going to make this easier for ourselves by turning these into improper fractions. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 over 4 divided by 8 times 1, 8 plus 1, 9. So this is the same as 9 over 8. Now, remember, we want to multiply by our reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 8 over 9. These will reduce to 1. We're going to multiply our numerator by 8 over 9. Okay, can we cross-reduce anything? Yes, we can. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now we can't reduce anything else, so we're going to multiply across. 11 times 2 is 22. 1 times 9 is 9. Remember, this whole thing is 1, which is the same as writing 22 over 9. Now we need to turn that back into a mixed number. 9 goes into 22 how many times without going over? 2 times. 9 times 2 is 18, so we're going to count up to 22, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So we have 4 ninths left over. So our answer is 2 and 4 ninths. I have to flip this while we hit next.
Simplify the complex fraction.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do 5 over 6 divided by 1 and 1/4. We're going to turn 1 and 1/4 into a mixed number. So, 1/4, right? 5 over 6 divided by, okay, here we go. Multiply, 4, add, plus 1. 5 over 4. Reciprocal, times 4/5. These will become 1. We want to multiply the numerator by the same thing, so times 4/5. Cross-reduce if we can. Okay, 5 and 5 will both reduce to 1. Now, 4 and 6, we can divide both of those by 2. 4 divided by 2 will give us 2. 6 divided by 2 will give us 3. So this will give us 2/3 for an answer. All right, make sure you guys finish your quiz. We got a 100. Hopefully you did too. Bye.